Travis Wingetzel. It's a good thing Barbie got released before the Hollywood shutdown, because all of those millions of little girls would be frustrated not being able to go without sex because they're dancing the night away. Right, Dua Lipa? So... do I dare? As a desperate man, I'm willing to take resumes for female companionship. You can submit a picture too if you want. So let's get on with the main video. What order should we do these in? We should. We'll go to the scripture first. In 1844, after Joseph was assassinated, Brigham Young put in his version of the Doctrine and Covenants, section 119 on tithing. He, of course, had to blame Joseph. Mormons wouldn't believe his scriptures if he put them in there with his name. And so he lied and said it was Joseph who created it on July 8th, 1838. Right there in that gap between prison time, thanks to Brigham Young and his Danites. Joseph Smith was busy on the Joseph Smith Visionary account, exposing Brigham Young for lying to converts that it was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that were Christian, not the learning of the Jews. And so Brigham Young, in order to enslave Mormons into his Mormonism, established tithing. And so it's just 7 verses. Verily, thus saith the Lord, I require all their surplus property to be put in the hands of the bishop of my church in Zion, for the building of my house, mine house, and for the laying of the foundation of Zion, and for the priesthood, and for the debts of the presidency of my church. The Danites caused the debts of the presidency. That was the bank failure. Danites were taking out loans and not paying them back, and thus the 17 lawsuits against Joseph Smith. But Joseph Smith got out, and during that time period, boom, he had us all set up. That's why they do the crimes they do, because they've already got A, B, C, D, E planned for each response that happens. This is evil incarnate. And so, this shall be the beginning of the tithing of my people. And so you see that Brigham Young is trying to claim that Mormons must pay tithing to build temples, for building Zion. Anybody familiar with Brigham Young's temple endowment in regards to the gospel of sacrifice, or the law of sacrifice, and the law of consecration? That's where he got that from, was from his creation of tithing here. This has nothing to do with what Malachi was talking about regarding tithing. Because Malachi was talking about giving tithing to take care of the poor. That's what the storehouses are that Malachi is talking about. And yet Brigham Young is now saying, no, tithing is for the presidency, it is for the temples, it is for Zion. And yes, that's what Mormons had to pay for. Brigham Young's mansions. You thought it was the presidency. And after that, those who have thus been tithed, so after you've paid the prophet, priestcraft, in case you're unaware of what it means, which is another tell, it's not Joseph. Now they have to pay an additional tithe. Those who have thus been tithed for the building of the temple, laying the foundation of Zion, and to the presidency, with Heber C. Kimball and Willard Richards too. Yeah, the one who shot Joseph in the back. Dumped his body out the window and then came over Hiram's body and shot him in the face. Right here. Caused the blood stain on the floor. Now that those Mormons have paid that fine, tribute, now have to pay 1/10 of all their interest annually. So you kind of have to be rich to be Mormon. You kind of have to own your own business, sell your own products. And so the majority of Mormons these days aren't. The majority of Mormons these days work for someone else. So how did the church handle that? Yeah, 10% of every source of income you get. You are slaves. And in 1923, Heber J. Grant incorporated this Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And in that incorporation documents, he stated that Mormons are considered chattel, slaves, to pay for the building up of the church. And he did it with $1 million that he had previously obtained from Mormons through tithing. The whole Lorenzo Snow going down to St. George, giving a talk, windows of heaven. No, that was a BYU BS. Propaganda video. Never happened. There was, however, on the year that BYU claimed was the year, there was a drought, and there was a rain, and the flooding made things worse. That's the real story. And so, yeah, this is the setup for what we're getting into. And so, Joseph Fielding Smith, in the way to perfection, had some difficulty this morning as I had set it in a different place as I was remodeling the apartment. This edition was out in 1978, just in time for the blacks getting the priesthood. Yeah, it was originally Yeah, he originally did a preface August 1st, 1931 for the October 1931 issue and the July 1932 issue. So apparently he had to keep correcting it. And so, yeah, there's just a whole bunch of... It's the same formatting that he uses for other publications that he did. Answers to Gospel Questions, for example. This was just the one style. You know, if I were to use this program, I would have so many books published. I'd have to do the original work, but with Amazon publishing, I can just come up with 24 pages worth of material and publish that. And then as I get more and more 24 pages of material, then I can publish fuller books and even do mix and matching of 24 pages long stuff. It's awesome. If I were to get back into that again. But, yeah, I've got other things like saving your lives and getting blamed for it. So on page 290 and 291 of this edition of 1978, we have the segment by voice of the priesthood. So if you get a different edition, you can just look for by the voice of the priesthood, by voice of the priesthood. And then the chapter headings, or the chapter contents. Yeah, it's under chapter 41, the resurrection of the No, it is not. It's under the gathering at Adam-on-Diamond. And so there's some segments before it. The Ancient of Days, a grand council soon to be, the keys of the kingdom, by voice of the priesthood. There's probably more. There obviously is more bombshells. If I would just go back to the beginning of this chapter 40, the Ancient of Days, and then the Grand Council soon to be, and the Keys of the Kingdom. Because what I'm going over is already bombshell enough, and I've gone over it with you, and I've had to go over it with you again, because I refer to it as, I just show you the book, and you're supposed to go, oh, okay, there's something in that book that says what he's talking about. Maybe I should get that book and look it up and see what it says. Nope. You don't. Instead, you argue, fuss, and fight. We're going over the book, aren't we? Not the scriptures. Thrones to be cast down. Yep, I knew this. Dear God, there is. Oh my God. Yep. There. Oh my God. We need to go over all of this. Holy crap, Batman. Oh my God. Yep. So he's basing all of this on Daniel chapter 7 verse 9. We're going over all of it. A new change. This is going to be a long video. Get your popcorn, get your Mountain Dew, sit right back, pause the video, and then come back. All right, welcome back. Daniel 7:9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow. So from that one sentence, he comes up with all of this. Oh my god. This is priceless. This is going to be awesome. Alright. So, not far from the town of Galatian, or Gallatin, in Davies County, Missouri, there is a place known to the people as Spring Hill. Here a settlement of the saints was started in 1838. Yeah, which saints? The Danites. So here we need to pause and give you some historical background that he's not willing to share. 1838, went over the tithing with you. 1838, yeah, that same time. And Joseph Smith was working on the Joseph Smith Visionary account because of the missionaries who were lying about the name of the church and that they were saying it's Christian with Jesus. And so while he's writing that visionary account to set the record straight of who our Christ really is, and that we're learning of the Jews, as well as some prophecies about the future, giving us the exact date, day and hour for the latter days. Gotta watch my videos, guys. You're missing out. The Danites settled by Newell K. Whitney's home. That's right near Spring Hill. Newell K. Whitney is a Danite. The Danites frame him. July 8th, 1838. See the time? Because we get to all these words that are not decoded. The 1981 edition, the church claimed they got all this decoded for us so that we wouldn't be confused by the weird words. You know, like Adamon Diamon, Olaha Shinha, etc. Nope, they missed some, didn't you, Bruce? And so, verse 11. Let my servant, Newell K. Whitney, be ashamed of the Nicolaitan band and of all their secret abominations. Ta-da! The Danites. Nicolaitan, you go to 11a, it refers you to Revelation. That's the code word the person framing Joseph said. And I'd be willing to bet it's the George guy that they're framing here, George Robinson. But, yeah, it was. Because I did the video the other day. George W. Robinson is the son-in-law of Sidney Rigdon. And so, no, he was not a Danite leader in 1838. The Danites are framing him to frame Sidney Rigdon, and thus likewise frame Joseph. That's what they do. They're bad guys. They murder to get gain. They rape to get gain. Polygamy to get gain. Framing Joseph. Get the point? And so they gathered to Independence, or to Newell K. Whitney's home. That's the secret headquarters of the Danites. They confess by their lying about him. About Joseph, technically. And so, another confirmation of this is that Benjamin F. Johnson, that's right. You're supposed to pop up in the meantime of typing. Wikipedia, Benjamin F. Johnson. See, he was he was from Pomfret, New York, moved to Kirtland, Ohio in 1833, and married Melissa Bloomfeld LeBaron. Sound familiar? On 25th of December, 1841. And so, yeah, it believes that Jesus was born on Christmas, doesn't he? And so he was, where is it? Springfield, Little Gun, 1838. Yeah, I knew it. I just had to check and verify. 1838. He moves to where? Adam-on-Diamond. In Adam-on-Diamond, he's arrested. Mormons are in Adam-on-Diamond. That's a whole 100% Mormon outpost. They spell Ammon wrong. Clue. But he's arrested. And he's kept under guard for 8 days in intensely cold weather before an open campfire. He's tortured. And while he's sitting on a log, a brute, it's from the Wikipedia page, came up to him with a rifle in his hands. He's Mormon. He's a Danite. And the Danite tells this newly converted Mormon of 5 years, give up Mormonism right now or I'll shoot you. Well, he becomes a Danite. He gave up Mormonism. That's what they don't want you to know about. They tell us in seminary and in institute, he stood strong in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the gun misfired. So when people stick a gun in your face for being Mormon, you say, pull the trigger, I will not deny the gospel of Danites. You did watch the video about Samson yesterday, hint, hint. And so, there's another part of that. Oh yeah, the war. Mormon War. So Joseph is free. They're framing him after the fact during this time period. They gathered to Adam-on-Diamond. Joseph had written the visionary account condemning Brigham and his Danite missionaries. They're pissed. And so there's an election that year in Daviess County. They gather and then march down to the polling station for, wait for it, election fraud, seditious conspiracy, a pattern of what they plotted to do in the future of the latter days. And so yes, Chris Stewart's ancestor was there. Senator Lee's ancestor was there. Chris Stewart's ancestor was the first to get knocked down to the ground. He made the sacrifice to lock up Joseph Smith. And so, yeah, that's what they did. They started a fight to rig the election so that Joseph would get blamed for it. They made sure to also go to the judge and the sheriff to their log cabin homes and force them with like 1,000 Danites showed up. I don't know if it was 1,000, it could have been 100, but a lot, to their homes, forced them to sign documents that it was Joseph Smith, who could not have been there because he was selling property to Emma, his wife, for the Relief Society in a town far, far away, far west. It's too far away for him to travel to be there to tell the judge and the sheriff it's him. The Danites lied again. All from the Joseph Smith Papers, guys. Joseph Smith Papers vindicates Joseph, condemns the Danites of this church, prophesied by Samson. And so, the order goes out to arrest Joseph Smith for seditious conspiracy, along with Orrin Porter Rockwell. Yeah, it was just Orrin. Orrin Hatch? No, Orrin Porter Rockwell. Orrin Hatch would go on to help. I'd be interested to know if there was a Hatch also, because there's Hatches in Utah. It's a family of Hatches. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they too were part of the Danite group. And so Orrin Hatch could, he could be another government leader with ties to the Danites that started all this and plotted all this in the future, of which their descendants are causing nowadays. And so, Joseph is locked up in Liberty Jail. Who's running the church? Well, nope. The Danites then go against the leaders of the church. They're threatening their lives and kicking them out. And so David Whitmer, he has to leave. His family are also threatened. They're going to murder them all if he doesn't leave the church, leave his position of authority. Other leaders of the church are scared away and chased off. Thomas B. Marsh also. It had nothing to do with his wife withholding milk shreddings, scrapings or whatever, the skimmed milk. Nope. He was chased out by the Danites. And he was the president of the Missionary 12, of whom Joseph Smith was complaining were part of the problem. The Danites kicked him out. Then Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, and the few that remained, that had to be at least 7 in order to have a majority to form a quorum and do business, voted for Brigham to be the new president. And then sent a letter to Thomas B. Marsh to return on the 17th of March, 1839, while Joseph was still in Liberty Jail. Yeah, Joseph didn't excommunicate him. For his excommunication. Yeah, he didn't bother to go. And so he was excommunicated on that day. I refer you to the Law of the Jews, Deuteronomy 19 verse 19, for what that meant. And I also refer you to Joseph Smith and March 17th, 1842, to the Relief Society, who give birth to babies. And what that means in connection with the law, and who is to replace the corrupt Brigham Young. Section 103, verse 16. And so, the Mormon War. And the church wants to claim they're innocent and victims of religious persecution, etc., etc., etc. Okay? And so, yes, 116, likewise. All of these in this area, except for 119, were put in by Brigham Young the year before he died. They had to create it first. It never existed previously. All of a sudden, they magically appear the year before Brigham Young died in that edition of the Doctrine and Covenants of Brigham Young. They all need to be removed, but they need to be preserved because we now know the plot. Here, a settlement of the saints was started in 1838. See, he's calling the Danites saints. They were, technically, but they're falling stars. This hill is on the north of the valley through which runs Grand River, described by the prophet Joseph. Nope, forged document. But he has access to that document that's now in the Joseph Smith papers. He knows. We don't need the description of it. I called it a Tower Hill. A name I gave the place. Oh, okay. He's claiming it's from Joseph Smith's journal entry. When the prophet first visited the hill, he called it Tower Hill, a name I gave the place in consequences of the remains of an old Nephite altar or tower that stood there. Nope, Danites. And because of the Danites forging this document, Mormons went there and dug it all up and took treasure tokens and of the altars and destroyed the whole archaeological site. And I remember as a kid thinking, why did the Mormons destroy the site? We could have had the altar there of Adam. We could have proven it with science. Boy, was I naive. And then 116, he quotes. Under the Ancient of Days. The world at large is in ignorance regarding this wonderful character, the Ancient of Days. It's Atum of the Egyptians, by the way. The sun, the setting sun. Because the Egyptians had Ra for the sun that's throughout the daytime. The morning sun is called Kefre. Fire alarm. Is it from the dog place? Because it's not this building. If it's this building, I would be hearing it, wouldn't I? Or is it shut off? And the sun at noonday. Where do we hear that from? All over Joseph Smith's works. Amen. A-W-M-E-N. And then the setting sun is Atum, which, yeah, phonetically the same as Adam, but a different meaning. Did the dog set off the fire alarm? Good boy. So, that's the Ancient of Days, as talked about in Scripture. And it's also comparable to Michael in the Bible, Old Testament, in which Michael, who is like God, Adam, Amen, Ancient of Days, is also Thought, David, phonetically the same, who records everybody in the book of life, as the passage in the Bible tells us he does. But that's the Egyptian documents. That's the judgment. And so the Danites were purposely screwing this up for a coded message of what they plan to do in the future. So pay attention. I'm hearing Mormon crickets. All right. Let's see. Much has been written of him, but mostly without knowledge. He... Beam and mote. Projection. He is, so the Lord informs us, no other than Adam, our ancient father, who had sex with Mary and raped her and gave birth to Jesus, the bastard son. That's the Mormon doctrine of the Danites. They turned the Book of Mormon into literal history, rather than the learning of the Jews. Remember the visionary account in 1838 of Joseph? They even changed that. And so, as Michael the archangel, he fought battles against Lucifer in the beginning. Revelation chapter 12. Joseph Smith knew the date because of the Joseph Smith translation of Revelation 12. 23rd September 2017, the start of the latter days, when the president would be put on the throne of America. By who? We're getting to it. You're going to have to wait. It's the Council for National Policy that the church runs and operates. Plus the tithing that they use, just in case you get bored and want to leave. Or if you've left, you missed it. I summed it up for you there. Sound the trumpet when all the dead shall awake. He shall lead the fight in the final battle with Lucifer. Okay? As Adam, he was known as the first man on earth by virtue of the honor of the Father of all, the Prince of all, the Ancient of Days. He's the Prince of Peace? Jesus? He holds the keys of salvation for the earth. No. That's Jesus. Yah of salvation. Thus the key of salvation. The earth is under his direction of the Holy One. Even Jesus. Mostly without knowledge. Adam's last family gathering. Dun dun dun. So they're referring to Doctrine and Covenants, section 107, verse 53. This is the Bible edition. And March 28th, 1835, so that it was put in the 1835 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants. They're claiming here that there were previously published parts of this as early as November 1831. And so, section 107. Yeah, no. Yeah, this is... historical background context time. Section 107 from the Joseph Smith Papers is where the organization of the Quorum of 12 missionaries, with Thomas B. Marsh as the president, Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball were members of it, as well as the 70 under them. There's a difference in administration under Joseph Smith during this time period. He had separated out 12 with 70. One was for administration, one was for missionary work. This is about missionary work. The administration part he did not cover. Section 102 helps you understand better the administration organization. Joseph Smith Sr., Samuel Smith were in the High Council 12. For example, there's a list of those who are also in that Council of 12. They are the main council. It's not a stake council that Joseph Smith is setting up there in Section 102. That was Brigham Young, who wanted nothing to do with it because he's the president of the 12 missionaries. And so obviously he doesn't want that administration because he has to claim to be the successor. And so they were given licenses, and all of the different licenses are listed in the Joseph Smith papers. And then, boom, he gives his talk to the newly licensed missionaries. And thus, 1838 is what is a result of this. The Joseph Smith history, visionary accounts. And he tells them of how they're supposed to be set up and structured. And this is what Brigham Young did by chasing out, let's see, verse 28. A majority may form a quorum when circumstances render it impossible to be otherwise. Joseph Smith locked up, he can't call new people, and so Brigham Young, with the majority in the quorum, votes to have him be the president. Votes. Verse 21. All quorums vote for their president. And then the president can have 2 counselors if he so chooses. But for the presidency of the church, when Joseph Smith is gone, verse 22 is how he was supposed to have been succeeded. They didn't. There is no authority of the church. It's gone from the face of the earth. 3 presidents. And if they want counselors, fine. But 3 replace 1 Joseph Smith. Because they don't know what Joseph knows. And so as long as the priesthood vote for those with the gifts of prophet, seer, revelator, and translator, the church can survive. And it's the whole Melchizedek priesthood who votes. So in order to destroy Joseph Smith's church, you either have a wicked church with the murder of Joseph, or you murder all the priesthood, Melchizedek priesthood holders, so that there's no longer a majority that has nothing. You can have 1 Melchizedek priesthood holder remaining, and he becomes the president under Joseph Smith's situation. So Brigham, by changing it to his 12, and the president of the 12 becomes the president of the church upon the death of the president of the church, now you can destroy this church easier. Just by the deaths of a majority of all 15 prophets. And notice how they're all prophets, seers, and revelators now under Brigham. In section 107, no, only Joseph is a prophet, seer, revelator, and translator. Hiram is a prophet, seer, revelator, and patriarch. And this is what he's telling these missionaries. How to do their duty and the organizational structure and how they fit into the system. And it's been screwed up by Brigham Young. Okay? Alright. And so, yeah, section 107 is merely talking about Adam giving blessings to his family and calls it Adam on Diamond, but it's spelled wrong. I should check the Joseph Smith papers to see if it was spelled right, but it's not likely to have been if it's a Danite who's the scribe of this. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. Doctrine and Covenants, we'd have to check and do research, and I'm not willing to do that at this time. That's not important to my eternal salvation. At this grand gathering, the Lord appeared and ministered comfort to Adam, and said unto him, I have set thee to be at the head. A multitude of nations shall come of thee, and thou art a prince over them forever. Okay, so still no Latter-day stuff here, is there? Nope. Not by Joseph. Then Adam stood in the midst of the congregation, and no such a gathering on any other occasion has this world ever seen. Yep, nobody's ever seen it. That's for sure. Notwithstanding, he was bowed down with age, being full of the Holy Ghost. He predicted whatsoever should befall his posterity unto the last generation. But it doesn't tell us. So this is where the Danites step in to fill in the gaps and plot the overthrow of America to return to Zion, and thus written in the book of Enoch, which shall be revealed in due time. Now, we do see it in the selections from the book of Moses, get a hint of the book of Enoch that he's talking about here. But the Danites made sure to reveal it for us. The Danites are good, and we're just following their predetermined counsel in heaven prophecy, and thus are good for being obedient to their wickedness. All right. Oh, the doctrinal history of the church? You can't trust him. All right. A grand council soon to be. Not many years hence, there shall be another gathering. 70 years hence? Less than 70. 65. Close to 65. Interesting. That's what he means by not many years hence. There shall be another gathering of high priests and righteous souls in this same valley of Armageddon. Don't forget Lucifer. We're getting to it. He says that. At this gathering, the Ancient of Days will again be present. At this time, the vision which Daniel saw will be enacted. What was that vision again? I beheld till the thrones were cast down. That's what this vision is all, or this event at Armageddon, the council, is all about. The overthrow of government. They're using Daniel 7:9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down. At this gathering at Armageddon, Adam, the Ancient of Days, will enact the vision of Daniel. And so all who have held keys of all dispensations will render up stewardships to the first patriarch of the race. I warn you, I even had a comment yesterday by a person claiming that they have never seen Mormons be racist in 25 years, as a half and half, as their father is black and their mother is not. So I had to respond by pointing out white supremacy of the church. The old school, silent racism. He's saying, because blacks didn't hold the priesthood here. Here, the Constitution, when was that? When blacks got the right to vote, no longer be a third human. The 15th Amendment, oh, nope, it was. Ratified on February 3rd, 1870. The 15th Amendment granted African American men the right to vote. And so that was the compensation from those who fought in the Civil War to protect America from the Illuminati who didn't go with Brigham Young to the Valley. They went to the South to form the Confederates. And thus reenacted the future plot to overthrow America. We still to this day have reenactors. And so, did I answer that? Okay. And notice also that section 107, how the priesthood, the whole priesthood, vote for the successor, which was technically supposed to be 3 presidents. Brigham Young changed it, so it's now a sustaining vote. 1 president, who is already predetermined by being the president of the 12. But that's what they did with the switch. They created a grand council in Adam-on-Diamond in the future, according to their redesigned pattern of administration. I noticed this as a kid. Wow, that sounds similar to how, the priesthood gathering. I even had a dream where I saw Jesus on my mission. Story time. I go out on my mission to New York, New York. I'm there in Massapequa Park, and it's the apartment that we called the Pleasure Dome. Mad Max, Beyond Pleasure Dome. Is that what it is? Beyond the Pleasure? It's not Beyond... Tina Turner. We should probably use that in the theme song in the description below. Tina... Thunderdome. That's it. Thunderdome. Yeah. Mad Max Thunderdome. We call it the Pleasure Dome. Taken from Mad Max. Beyond Thunderdome. And so we were right there at the fence line of the parking lot of the mall that was there. And so we still had to go across the street to the grocery store and then walk all the way back with our groceries. Preparation for walking home with my groceries here in Utah after being freed from my captivity. I literally was concerned because I was getting visions that my life on my mission would be similar to the life I would have when I left my mission and got home. I hate it when I'm always right. And And so I'm there with Elder Gale, my trainee. I came home, moved to Utah, and got divorced, and I see him. He was at the Smiths on State Street before it was shut down and moved over into the Draper area. I think he got a different managerial position in southern Utah, if I remember him correctly. But yeah, he trained me as I was kicking him out. It was his final year, or final month. And while I'm getting used to my new accommodations in the Pleasure Dome, we had the top floor, which was the roof, made into an apartment. And it was specifically rented out to missionaries. And there was another guy who worked at a photo shop. You see, kids, back in our day, we had what was called Kodachrome. Little cameras on film that you had to take to a photo shop, and then they would produce it. And eventually it got to the point where it was a quickie photo mart, where they had a machine that could make it real quick, and they were even sometimes advertising that they could make it in under an hour, just like Domino's Pizza was advertising that you can get your pizza within 30 minutes or it's free. And so, yeah, he had his room that was there on the second floor, and then there was a basement level. Or what? No, let's see. There was a basement level. There was the main floor where the kitchen and the TV area was, and we had to not make sure to leave any food in the refrigerator and not leave our towels on the racks in the bathroom, which was on the next level where his bedroom was, because he used that bathroom too. And then if we left our towels there, he would use our towels. And then there was another apartment in Massapequa. Not Massapequa Park, but in Massapequa. Likewise, we were sharing a house where we had the one bedroom at the end, and he was in another bedroom. And, oh my God, what did he put on my towel? Oh, I had to throw it away. And so here I am in Massapequa Park. Memories on the corner of my mind. And I'm sleeping on a mattress on the floor, and the roof slopes. And I have a dream. And in the dream, I'm in a big priesthood meeting at a stake chapel, stake-sized chapel for stake conferences. And I'm in one of the benches that's on the left side facing the pulpit. And I'm up against the wall in the middle of those rows from the pulpit to the initial doors at the back of the chapel on the left side. If you're familiar with the newer model chapel buildings, you'd know what I'm talking about here. You have the two doors at the front, two doors in the back, then you have the overflow, and there are two doors in the overflow section, and then you have the cultural hall, named for the cultural halls of the the Freemasonry, which are redesigned for cultural entertainment by those of color. Old school racism. And just packed. And then there's the stage at the far end, packed with all men in black suits and the white shirts and ties like missionaries. And so I knew it was a priesthood meeting of Melchizedek priesthood holders. And the conductor, whether he was the presider or just a conductor and the presider was sitting down, don't know, wasn't important to the dream. So he's getting up, he's starting it off, welcome, blah, 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 blah. He stops. Says, I now introduce to you Jesus Christ. Then I turn around to look at the door, the back end of the chapel. Guards come in, black suits, white shirt, ties. And they stand in position like they're security guards. And then Jesus, as we are told he looks like, comes in. He's got the white robe. It's not transparent. We were lied to. And so the dream was altered because of the lies. Literally, that's, you dream according to what you know and experience in life. And he comes in, walks down the aisle, right by me. He stops at my row. He then turns and looks at me. Everybody else is looking forward, or the guy at the top just looking out in the audience. Nobody's aware of his coming. They're not going, ah. No. They're all frozen in time. Jesus turns to me and telepathically tells me, you just barely made it. I wake up in a sweat and panic. And I'm going, what? What do you mean? What sin did I do that was so bad that I almost didn't make it? Hilarious. And so, yeah, other stories ensue. But that's my understanding of Adam-on-Diamon's council in the latter days. Was that kind of event. It had no concept of what he's talking about and will talk about here. Okay. This shall be a day of judgment and preparation. And then he quotes from the documentary history of the church, supposedly by Joseph. Okay, it says, Daniel in his 7th chapter speaks of the Ancient of Days. He means the oldest man, our father Adam, Michael. He will call his children together and hold a council with them to prepare them for the coming of the Son of Man. He, Adam, is the father of the human family and presides over the spirits of all men. And all that have had the keys must stand before him in this grand council. This may take place before some of us leave this stage of action. Yeah, this is completely different than what Joseph Fielding Smith claims. That's interesting. The Son of Man stands before him, Adam, and there is given him glory and dominion. Adam delivers up his stewardship to Christ, that which was delivered to him as holding the keys of the universe, but retains his standing as the head of the human family. So there's some differences here that we need to point out. One, he calls all of us to Adam-on-Diamond, to this council, to prepare us before the final day of the coming of the Son of Man. Notice he never says Jesus anywhere. Even with the Christ, he just says Christ, Son of Man, Christ. And so all the keys are given to him. He now runs the church. Okay? The keys of the everlasting kingdom is next. I should find the documentary history of the church. Let's check. No, that's the history of the church. That's the history of the church. Documentary history of the church. 7-book series. It's Mormonism Research Ministry. And no, it's just a definition of what it is. God, waste of my time. Isn't it B.H. Roberts? Yeah, Documentary History of the Church is by B.H. Roberts. He was the juvenile instructor. See, the regular history of the church is already in the Joseph Smith papers, but B.H. Roberts manuscript history of the church. Documentary history of the church, commonly known today as the history of the church. History of the church is heavily edited and problematic documentary history of the heavily edited problematic documentary history. This 7-volume series, it is. Okay. Alright, volume 3. So I do have it. Volume 3. Project Gutenberg. That's interesting. I'm not seeing a PDF, guys. probably do plain text. Psychology. Only 62 downloads in the last 30 days. Okay. Interesting. So, yeah, okay. I'm going to take a pause here at halftime, and then I'll come back and we'll continue on where we left off. All right, Travis Wayne Goodsell back. Did some checking also. The Volume 3 begins November 2nd, 1838. Yeah. Yeah. No. See, what happened here is that they forged the document to have Joseph Smith say this, and then Joseph Fielding Smith is now using the Danite documents to justify his vision of what's going to take place. And he doesn't follow Joseph whatsoever, which is strange. A prophet not following Joseph? And so you have the Son of Man with Mormons in attendance, and it's a council to prepare Mormons for the last day coming of the Son of Man, as prophesied, which 8 April 2024. And he gets possession of the church and all of its money and all of its authority. Nelson is supposed to give it up to him, because Nelson's the president of the church right now. Nelson is to give it to him, except that it was Monson who's supposed to give it to him, if not even earlier. And so, yes, I have had dreams of this too. I did the videos where Nelson is handing me money and the church. So in case you haven't been following me, I fulfill the learning of the Jews Christ that Joseph Smith prophesied about. Every single prophecy. And so, yes, I have been given the keys in dreams and visions. The first one was Hinckley in August of 2008. The church, under Thomas B. Monson, had me locked up because I filed a petition for a redress of grievances in the state of Utah. I was considered a terroristic threat, and they tried to erase me, and I was locked away for 6 years of my life. Released in 2014, the start of the pre-show for the latter days, with the tetrad. Perry Packer Scott biting the dust. And while being tortured, refusing to state that Joseph Smith is false by the Danites. See, Benjamin F. Johnson was weak. I had a dream in which I was going to what appeared similar to Rick's College in their basketball theater place where devotionals were held every Tuesday, as I remembered it. There were some differences, and people were formally dressed, and you had to have tickets to get into the performance. And I had come from the outside of the doors and was able to see in and was about to head in, and I can see the basketball court and the rows around the court, just like it was at Rick's. And it was just me, but I had 2 tickets. Obviously, I have trouble getting dates. Always have. Like again, resume. Please send your resumes. That picture would be nice. I'm desperate. And and so as I'm about to go in, President Hinckley and Marjorie, formally dressed, they show up. But they don't have tickets. And so Hinckley asks if I would give him mine. I did. Freely, willingly. For that, President Hinckley gave me his key card to his office with the number 77 on it. We both said thank you and went our ways. He went into the performance. I went towards the elevators in the back. Got on the elevator. There was another woman in the elevator, and it flew down. It was like a countdown. It was over floor 200 from what I saw before the numbers started flying down. And yeah, we came all the way down to the bottom floor, the bottom level of hell. And in the course of time, there was another woman that showed up in the elevator, and the 2 girls started kissing each other. And there I was, all by myself, nobody kissing me. And get to the bottom, I come out. They don't. They stay on the elevator kissing. I kissed a girl and I liked it. And should that be the song in the description below? You guys won't understand it if you're not watching to this point in the video of how it applies. You're just going to see in the description below, I kissed a girl, Katy Perry. And you're going to go, what? What does that have to do with the video topic? It's where I got the keys of the church. And so yes, bulletproof glass. There's a little station there with the guards on computers and such. And one of the guards comes out, and I've got the key to Hinckley's office. Okay. He goes in, the bulletproof glass. There's a little key punch to punch in some numbers to let me in to go to the office. Just like at the church administration building, you go in, bulletproof glass. That's how I knew about it. And And so my dream was just recreating that with a different architectural structure than what I knew it as. And I go in, I start down the left, and there's all these rooms, and I'm seeing the numbers, and I'm going in the wrong direction. So I come back, go down the right, and I pass by room number 88. It is packed. Stacks of papers and books on shelves, on top of shelves, on tables, all over the place. Big unorganized mess. Just a whole bunch of documents, similar to what I have now. And need to organize them and PDF them. And I then hear the guard yell out to me, "You have 5 minutes?" And so I keep on going, and I find room number 77. And then I hear, "You have 2 minutes." So I go in the room, emptied. There's shelving, there's a desk, and on the desk there's a post-it note, or post-it thing. So I take the pad, take a pen, write on, "Thank you." And it's been longer than 2 minutes. The guard doesn't come and get me and shoot me. And so I go out, and that's the end of it. I then end up in a courtyard with a metal picnic table, all by myself. I sit on top of the picnic table, and then did one of the women or both women? I think both women then finally make their appearance as they come to me. That was all part of my being locked up for life, as I believed. And after that dream, I then, from that moment on, began to get revelation for how to build, design, and construct all things pertaining to Zion. And I'm pissed, because I'm locked up for life now. I'm never going to see the light of day ever again. And here I am getting revelations to build Zion that I'm obviously not going to go to. And then I'm miraculously freed for 2014. After I married Karen, I have another dream. And in the dream, I'm living in a tent, like Lehigh. And I find a pair of boots. And I go, "These aren't my boots. These are Monson's boots." And so I go to find Monson to give them back to him. And I find him. He's with his security guards. They don't shoot me. And I say, "Monson, you forgot your boots." And he just laughs and walks on. Says, "They're mine. I can keep them." So I go back to my tent, toss the boots inside. And then, another dream, I'm in a room in the Salt Lake Temple. And I've never been in the room, I've never seen in the room, but I know it's the Holy of Holies. I'm told so in the dream. And then there's a picture of the first vision on the wall. And there's a little table thing in the middle of the room. And then a pillar of light appeared in the room, descended gradually until it fell upon me. And then the light was Jesus. Full glory. And we began talking about the latter days. Take that, Christ, who thinks he's the Christ. He's got a YouTube channel, I guess. He's more popular than I am, by far, I guess. I don't know why people want to subscribe to him and give him notoriety, but he's one of the branch-off Mormons. He claims his authority because he had a vision in which he went to the top of the Salt Lake Temple pillar, and Jesus was there, trying to say that it had to do with Matthew, where the 40 days. Please step down. It's me. I fulfill all the prophecies. He doesn't. Give you a hint. His name is not Sun God. Emmanuel. Okay. And so, yeah. According to the Danites, they're supposed to give me the church. And I called Nelson out on it. Where's my church? Hello? You've said you're going to give it to me. So give it to me. And he won't. He's backing out. So, alrighty. The keys of the everlasting kingdom. It was in the night vision that all this was shown to Daniel. And he saw the Son of Man come to the Grand Council, as he did to the first Grand Council in the Valley of Adam-on-Diamond. And so they're taking Daniel 7. They have created this whole story based upon Daniel 7:9. But it's not to give me the kingdom. They don't believe I exist or will exist. They never expected me to be real, because they already know Jesus isn't real. So they're using Jesus as code. And that would be Nelson, who is Jesus, because he's the president of the church. Section 107, verse 91. Joseph Smith is the Christ of the church. Really would help if you studied your scriptures, guys. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood, that's Joseph Smith, is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses. Joseph Smith history, verse 40, the second vision, the bicentennial year this year, the day that shall burn as an oven, and our Christ. You go to Acts, Moses truly said, a man like Moses is our Christ. Deuteronomy is where Acts got it from. Man like Moses in the learning of the Jews. Section 103, verse 16. The Christ is Mormon, born in the great and abominable church of the Danites. Samson. There's a reason why I'm inspired to do the videos that I do when I do them. And you would be wise to hearken to me, because I, not that other false Christ, not Nelson, am a seer, a revelator, a translator, and a prophet, having all the gifts of God which God bestowed upon me. No one else. And I can safely say that because nobody's watching. And so I've already received the keys. But the church believes they've already received the keys because they are in direct contrary opposition against me, because they don't believe I exist or would exist. They are doing their plan. And there, in the council in the valley of Adam-on-Diamond, the Son of Man received the keys from Adam, and there was given to him dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. No. Only those who hearken. The rest of you, get out. But the church? No. All of you will obey and serve the church. You will all bow the knee to the church. That's what he said. We're at page 290 now. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. And Brigham Young's was. But Mormons believe, nope, didn't happen. In this council, Christ will take over the reins of government officially on this earth, and the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. That's Emmanuel, by the way. Amen. They have culturally appropriated Joseph Smith and changed it. Exactly what Christians did to the Jews, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him, even Jesus Christ. I warn you, you don't believe me. Thrones to be cast down. Game of Thrones. I do videos showing you pictures, and you don't want to watch. You don't want to listen. Until this grand council is held, Satan shall hold rule in the nations of the earth. But at that time, thrones are to be cast down, and man's rule shall come to an end. For it is decreed that the Lord shall make an end of all nations. Really? Jesus? The terroristic threat from outer space? Are you not scared? See, this isn't what I'm going to do. This was all by the Danites. This is what they are plotting and have already been activated, because we're in the final year of the latter days, the bicentennial year of the second vision. Preparation for this work is now going on. Was it 1831? Is that what I read? Yep. August 1st, 1931. And it's actually before that. And This is Junior, because Senior was dead. So yeah, Senior wrote this long since before, because Heber J. Grant was 1923, and that was halfway through his reign. Joseph Fielding Smith was at the turn of the 1900s and actually died in the Great Plague of America at that time that everybody was comparing COVID to, until we easily surpassed it with death numbers. But yeah, interesting. 16th printing. Is it, Junior? The publication of this text, The Way to Perfection, has come about through repeated requests from our workers for a faith-promoting discussion of doctrinal principles and historical themes which justify the large place salvation for the living as principles of the gospel. It is. This book has been prepared not only for the study. Yeah. Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. That bastard. Yeah, it's Junior, not Senior. I wish they would put the titles, whether they're Junior or Senior. Okay. Resurrection of the Just is next. So here we go. Now, the repeat part. By voice of the priesthood. This council in the valley of Adam-on-Diamond is to be of the greatest importance to the world. And again, I beheld till the thrones were cast down. At that time, there will be a transfer of authority. Not the casting down of the thrones yet. A transfer of authority from the usurper and impostor Lucifer. Lucifer is symbolized by the inverted pentagram, the falling star, the symbol of the Illuminati, of whom Brigham Young was a part of. That's why they're all over and on the headquarters temple at the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple. It is him. Nelson is Lucifer by name, because Russell is red, Marion is star. The red star is Mars. Mars is the husband to Venus. Venus is the inverted pentagram Isaiah talks about. The falling star. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, Venus. And so Mars is the husband to Venus, the church, the bride. But he's not talking about it this way. The Danites, even though they are Lucifer, are not talking about it that way. They instead are now Jesus. Nelson is believed to be Jesus. And so Lucifer becomes the government leaders. who are also the Illuminati, who, like I said, after 9/11, 1826, those who didn't go with Brigham went to the South, for the most part. And there began the Confederacy to overthrow the government. They failed in part, but we know they did have some success. But again, they went into other groups. The leader of the Confederates formed the KKK, and thus the cross burnings of the Confederate flag with inverted pentagrams on the latter-day symbol of the solar eclipses over America. They plotted this using the Bible prophecies and have lied to Christians and to Mormons about it all, so that we, the people, don't understand what the symbolisms mean, what their intentions are, as people get brainwashed to do their bidding. And then KKK were Democrats at the time and helped Hitler. And then with World War II, Democrats changed to be the Republican platform. Well, afterwards, it was McCarthy. But that's why we then, when we finally turned on Hitler, they then adopted communism of our allies. And McCarthy then rose up and said, hell no, we need to restore Nazi fascism. We need to blacklist all of these commies in Disney and lock them up. And so, yeah, the Republican Party is now turning into fascist Illuminati, as Hitler inverted the swastika of Hindus, wasn't it? The Hindu symbol. He inverted it to let everybody know who he is. And so, yes, these government leaders are of the Illuminati. That's what they've been doing these last 200 years, is infiltrating every single group they can, rising up in number and in rank, and then taking them over with its destruction. They did it to America. It is not a coincidence. And so that's what they're actually saying here. That's how Lucifer is able to attend Adam-on-Diamond, is because the church is going to be in charge of a group that will give it to the church. National Council for National Policy. It's coming. We'll see if we can make this under 22 hours. 22 hours. Okay? Nelson is Jesus. Lucifer, this Council for National Policy. And they're going to give it to Nelson. Judgment will be set, and all who have held keys will make the reports and deliver their stewardships as shall be required. Adam will direct this judgment. If you haven't noticed, I'm judging you. Those who attack me in my comments, those who don't believe and spew hate, you're judged by being banned from my presence. This is the pre-judgment. No unclean person can enter into Zion. It must not be corrupted like everything the Illuminati touches. And so he'll report and as the one holding the keys of this earth to his superior officer, Jesus. Our Lord will then assume the reins of government. Directions will be given to the priesthood. Now remember, Joseph supposedly said that all of us will be there at that council. This is different. Already we have Lucifer in attendance. He gives the keys to Jesus. That's not what was said here. It was originally said that the governments would be thrown down. And thus, the Christ takes over government. This Grand Council, let's see, he will be installed officially by the voice of the priesthood there assembled, not the children of mankind. This Grand Council will be composed not only of those who are faithful, who now dwell on this earth, but also of the prophets and apostles of old who have had directing authority. Others may also be there, but if so, they will be there by appointment. For there is to be an official council called to attend to the most momentous matters concerning the destiny of this earth, the overthrow of government. That's the Illuminati. That's what they did. That's their plot. Albert Pike, his letter to Giuseppe Mazzini, that's their plot. To take over government and destroy Christianity with Jesus. And so yes, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will also be thrown down. So that Nelson, or Oakes, will rise up with their intended kingdom of Deseret of Brigham Young again. No more Joseph, no more Book of Mormon. Just slavery and servitude and child bride polygamy. When this gathering is held, the world will not know of it. Also different from the original. The members of the church at large will not know of it. And so he just called you unfaithful. Only those who are faithful, who now dwell on this earth, will be in attendance. But the members of the church at large will not know of it. It's calling the church, you wicked. Yet it shall be preparatory to the coming in the clouds of glory of our Savior Jesus Christ, as the prophet Joseph Smith has said. Again, 8 April 2024. Next year. That weekend conference for April conference. That's what they're planning. Oakes, when he becomes president of the church, he'll be number 18 according to the incorrect numbering system. It has to be incorrectly numbered so that as 18, it's 6 plus 6 plus 6. The 666 president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Overthrown and risen up from the ashes to become the Church of Lucifer. Are all my previous videos now making sense? The world cannot know of it, because, yeah, they will rise up in rebellion like in France. The saints cannot know of it, because they would leave the church so that there would be no church to destroy. Except those who are officially shall be called into this council. None of you were, except for the Skousen son, Mark Skousen, who's in this council. For it shall precede the coming of Jesus Christ as a thief in the night, unbeknown to all the world. Damn. So yes, we have exclusive knowledge on secret combinations and how they work. And so let's bring up the Council for National Policy picture again. Come on. So, the Southern Poverty Law Center released online for all to be warned about the secret combination of the United States of America. If you don't know the Southern Poverty Law Center, they expose hate groups in America. They have designated this Council for National Policy as a hate group because they're seeking to overthrow the government. They were founded in 1981. That's their logo. They have the Capitol building, and then they dominate the Capitol building. So isn't it interesting that here in Utah on State Street there's the Eagle Gate with the inverted pentagram pointing at the keystone to the state of Utah's capital. And I don't think they were that clever with that, but nonetheless. And so this is the 2014 membership directory. It was leaked. This is a sacred secret. Nobody's supposed to know about it. Southern Poverty Law Center found out about it. I found out about it 1 week before conference in October 2021. YouTube had fraudulently banned me from posting videos, as is their custom. It itches all over. And because they know that conference time is when I generate the most views. Because of the algorithms. They have to support the church. And so I, knowing that they have to support the church, am able to design the titles accordingly and get tons of views for conference. And knowing the importance of this, as I found Mark Skousen, as Cleon Skousen was the original member when it was founded in 1981, and with his death, Mark took over. They are the representatives for the church. They are the faithful who get to attend. And so just like Lee, who keeps pushing things to have certain things done because it's for the church, likewise, this organization has been involved in directing policy since 1981 during Reagan's administration. The whole trickle-down economics? Yeah, this group, the church. And it has people who are medical doctors, who are lawyers, who are psychos, psychologists, who are anti-science. And thus, why I warn you about psychology with the church in family services, which has permeated the BYUs of the church, so that every scientific field has been infested with psychology, which is anti-science. They are purposely ruining the fields of science. That's why I told you about my brother, who graduated with as the valedictorian of BYU in sociology. But when he went to the University of Michigan for his PhD, they said, no, you didn't follow the science, because he knows the psychology of sociology. And that's fake. It's false. It's wrong. But my brother pulled the religion card and forced the University of Michigan to give him his PhD. And then he got hired by the church because he can't work anywhere else, because he's not a real scientist. And has been tampering with the church. And was then weaponized by the church to attack me, as they threatened his job if he didn't get me and shut me down and silence me. And so, yeah, economic freedom, trickle-down economics. Corporations make all the money. They don't trickle down. Judeo-Christian values. Seriously? I gave an example in last night's video for the news clip on abortion. The Jews see life at birth, when the breath of life, the spirit, according to the learning of the Jews, occurs in a baby. Christians? No. And it depends on which kind of Christian you are. Mormon Christians are, it's whenever the spirit body enters into the body of the baby. And so the prophets keep silent on that. For Christians, it's once the seed enters the egg. The woman now has to have that baby, no matter how the seed got in her. That baby is more important than her. She must sacrifice her life for that baby, even if she was raped to get it. That's Christian values. Kind of different from Judeo values, isn't it? And that's just for the one example. We can go over the other issues. There's a whole long list of them. They are all different. Because when you change definitions, when you change meaning of words, when you alter translations, you alter and change the morality, the strength of youth, standards, and values. When you miseducate about sex ed, you get problems. You get sexual deviancy and criminal behavior from Mormons. And so, yes, they have no problem overthrowing the government because it's for Jesus. That's their values. And a strong national defense. Seagull. Fascism. That's what the GOP, the Tea Party, MAGA all mean. And everybody goes around chanting the various quotes perpetuated by whatever news channel is the popular one. Fox has been dethroned since the fulfillment of the story Pardon Samson and the Foxes, along with my brother. But that's what they mean. Overthrowing the government. The whole Judeo-Christian values? Destroy the Constitution with religious freedom. Overturning Roe v. Wade for Judeo-Christian values was a violation of the First Amendment, as well as the amendment that allowed women to vote. That was the best we can come up with since the church forced the cancellation of the Equal Rights Amendment. Because voting wasn't good enough. Women were still suppressed, oppressed, depressed. Mormon women are the highest per capita of depression drugs, which when they go off of them causes withdrawal symptoms, which makes them worse, and thus needing a lifetime supply. And so from 1981, every act has been their game plan to create this dichotomous division of America for the purpose of divide and conquer, the art of war. I'm trying to warn you to get out of that false dichotomy. Don't be a Democrat or MAGA. There are other options. You know, like the Constitution says, to be a constitutional republic. Notice how the deep state Dems keep pushing for democracy? And they use poll opinions to justify being a democracy. And it's only 100 people surveyed. Always the same 100 or 1,000. It's more likely 1,000. But how many 3 million plus Americans do we have? Or actually 300 million. It's Utah that has 3 million. And so what is the percentage of 1,000 into over 300 million? And they're giving these polls as if it's factual news? No, they're trying to change policy, national policy, to force government leaders to change to the opinion of 1,000 people. Or incite the people who follow them on their channel, because even the MAGA news does the same stunt, to get outraged, to demand that their government leaders follow the national policy of opinion polls. And so all of these events that occurred, where you see the response of the church or when you don't, the church is behind all of it. And so because the church is behind all of it, Brigham Young, now doing some church history for you, was first gathering the saints to the Salt Lake Valley. But the United States was too powerful for him. And under John Taylor, the United States shut down the church. John Taylor then died in prison in that summertime, I think it was. Late spring or summer. And so January was when it happened. And so, official declaration number 1, yeah, that was forced upon them by the United States. Willard Richards, to defy the government, claimed he was the president of the church, so that Mormons would obey. Nope. And so, Heber J. Grant reincorporated the church in 1923 after the October conference. So technically, the first conference of this church was in April 1924. Nelson is technically number 11. And because of tithing that Brigham Young established, that the United States did not stop, we now have tithing as their new way to rig the destruction of America in the future. No longer are they gathering Mormons as an army to go up against the United States of America. Though there were Mormons who went to the Capitol on January 6th, and those in government positions on January 6th, the 14th Amendment requires that they be removed from office, that they not run for government election office in the midterms of 2022. But oops, there was some kind of secret covenant of which they got away with their murders, their crimes, their plunderings and murders and rapes and blah blah blah. Helaman chapter 6, 22, 23. I'm 24, by the way. The whistleblower. And so the church from that moment on is now a corporation, using tithing and any and all other forms and sources of income, which are in the multiple dozens. There is known a list of over 3 dozen. And then each of those has an LLC corporation, because Nelson, in response to the whistleblower, confessed he is violating the United States laws and the tax laws, because he says he's following the parable of the talents, which is that he hoards money for Armageddon. And so the money they get from tithing is used to build temples, lay the foundation of Zion, and pay the debts of the priesthood for priestcraft. This foundation of Zion is the restoring of the kingdom by overthrowing the government. temples are to own the land around the world, just like China was doing. But Utah put a stop to it. Denied China from owning Mormon land. But that was part of the quid pro quo Nelson had with China to get the Shanghai. And yeah, Russia with the war in Ukraine to cause Armageddon. Ezekiel chapter 38. Emphasis on the chapter heading by Bruce R. McConkie. And so, tithing is confessed by this forged document of Brigham Young's for their plot to overthrow the government. And in so doing, everything that this secret combination is doing is to that end. The church is involved with putting Trump in power, who purposely caused this chaos. They knew the timing because they were following the prophecies of the Bible. But they didn't count on me. They didn't think I would be real, that Joseph Smith would be true as a prophet. And they turned the Book of Mormon into literal history because it prophesies of all this. They knew the plot. They knew the dates. And they wrote the Book of Mormon to warn us. And your tithing has been used to do all this. They turned you into criminals, seditious conspirators, and they're using you. You do not get rewarded for your loyalty. You are not a leader of the church. They are using you as chattel from the 1923 Articles of Incorporation. And so, yeah, Steve Bannon is a member of that group. Helped to overthrow the election in 2016. Was pardoned by Trump and is now in trouble again for his role in January 6th. The guy who's been setting up the Supreme Court justices with the billionaire in the group. The Supreme Court justices, members of the group, recommended them to Trump to put in. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was their exemption clause that passed the Respect for Marriage Act? No. The exemption clause disrespects marriage now. It's technically the Disrespect for Marriage Act. You gotta remove the exemption clause to respect marriage. LGBTQIAPO+ got fooled. These MAGA state governments are allowing LGBTQIAPO+ to have their driver's licenses and birth certificates changed. Like Utah. Exactly what Nazi Germany did before becoming Nazi Germany. will be subjected into plural marriages. Forced. No free agency. 11-year-old girls. No education, no career. You are a breeder. The men, slaves for the kingdom. Blacks, yeah, if you're not good enough for slave material, death. LGBTQIAPO+, death or torture through the return of conversion therapy. These are the horrors that awaits us if they win. This is their plot, this is their plan, and they use tithing to do it. And it's been here all along in the forged document, blaming Joseph for it.